Young India's aspiration worries. A shows a clear relation with occupation. Close to 4 in 5 youth from the youngest cohort were studying and only 4% were earning. While close to half of the youth in the 18 to 24 age group were studying and only 1 in 5 were earning. A recent report released by Lokniti CSDS in collaboration with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, which interviewed 6,277 youth aged 15 to 34 across 18 states in July-August 2021, offers insights on their career aspirations, job preferences and expectations, their opinions on institutions of kingship and their mental health. Occupation status. The occupational profile of India's youth seems to have undergone a significant change over a decade and a half, with two-fifths identifying themselves as students. This is up 7 percentage points since 2016 and 26 percentage points since 2007. Data also suggests that while more young men, 39% compared to young women, 11% were earning, a higher proportion of young women, 42% were studying, than young men, 36%. Age shows a clear relation with occupation. Close to 4 in 5 youth from youngest cohorts were studying and only 4% were earning, while close to half of the youth in the 18 to 24 group were studying and only 1 in 5 were earning. This indicates increased enrollment in higher education. Youth identified ability related characteristics, qualification, experience and communication as important in finding a job. On a positive note, they were least likely to consider identity related factors to be playing a decisive role in getting a job. Employment. More than half, 55%, said they would prefer a government job. A quarter, 24%, would prefer to start their own business. If we compare this with findings from youth studies in 2007 and 2016, they indicate changing priorities. 5 years ago, 65% preferred government jobs, which were 3 percentage points higher than a decade previously. Interestingly, there is a rising aspiration among the youth to start their own business. One also notices a change in career aspirations when the youth were asked about the occupation they would choose if they had the freedom to do so. The responses showed a rise from 3% to 17% among those wanting to join the health sector as doctors, nurses, or other medical staff. The possible reason for this could be the COVID-19 pandemic. Marriage. Many youth are now marrying at a later age than before. The study indicates that the proportion of married youth has decreased by 13 percentage points since 2007 and 5 percentage points since 2016. In the present study, 42% said they were married. Youth showed a greater acceptance for the idea of inter-caste marriage than for inter-religious marriage. However, while 61% supported intercaste marriage and 30% opposed it, there is a limited empirical evidence of this aspiration being translated into reality. The support for interfaith marriage is still not widely accepted, with 45% of the youth favoring it and 42% opposing it. Mental health. The study found that families' financial security worried the youth the most, followed by their own health. About 6 in 10 worried about their jobs and more than half, 54%, of their physical appearance. More than 50% of the youth reported becoming angry over small matters. It is also important to stress that their symptoms do not necessarily meet the criteria for any physiological disorder. This is just a reporting of response. About half each reported feeling sad, losing interest in daily activities, and being affected by loneliness during the last 2 or 3 years. Also, with high exposure to social media were found to be more emotionally distressed than those with low or no exposure. Although the majority of the youth said that they have never experienced suicidal thoughts, close to 2 to 10, 21%, did have such thoughts either many times or sometimes in the last 2 to 3 years. To a hypothetical question on whom they would approach if struggling with depression or thoughts of ending their life, 65% said they will approach either a family member or relative, highlighting the importance of family in the Indian context. While 15% would approach friends, only 3% said they would approach a mental health professional. The reason for this could possibly be social stigma and the negative stereotyping of people with mental health issues. What is worrisome is that 9% said they would not approach anymore. On the whole, the data indicates that India's youth worry about a range of issues. This could be linked to the pandemic, resulting in worsening financial and health worries. Youth also showed quite a few symptoms of emotional distress, but what is worrisome is that fairly large proportions have not sought medical help for these. It is important to ensure that there is general mental health awareness and also access to mental health care. Thank you.